I mean, Hitler is such a horrible person to bring up
Or even
because,
Mussolini,
yeah, Mussolini is better because Hitler is so closely connected to the atrocities of the Holocaust.
right?
There's all the stuff that led up to the war, and the war itself. Say that there was no Holocaust, Hitler would probably be viewed differently.
Yes, I should think so.
Well, I mean, but
You think that's a very controversial stance? You think Hitler would be viewed differently if it wasn't for the Holocaust?
well, I mean, but it's a funny thing that the I would say the death of how many 40, 50 million. I mean, I don't know how you calculate it, as is not seen as bad as the 6 million.
Oh yeah, because of Mao and Stalin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and but it's interesting.
I'm working on it.
You're working on
Yeah, the next book I'm talking
reminding.
about.
Well, it's good. I'm glad a good writer is, because
Well,
the
no,
world's
one of
not reminded
my last
that.
book, The New Right, I had to deal with some like the Nazis, and one of the points they make is how come everyone knows about the Holocaust but no one knows about the Holodomor, and they're right. We should know about this because it is a great example of both how the Western media were depraved, but also what human beings are capable of, and those scars are still. Many Americans think Russia and Ukraine are the same thing. That like, Trump's in bed with the Ukrainians, Trump's in bed with the Russians. They think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's for us, it's complete lunacy. But this is the kind of thing where Pol Pot is another example, where people have no clue of what has been done to their fellow man on the face of this earth, and they should know.
How much of that do you lay at the hands of communism? How much are you with like a Jordan Peterson who has is intricately connecting the atrocities, like you're saying, 1930s Ukraine, where people were starved. So my grandmother recently passed away, and she survived that
Oh my
as
God.
a kid, which is it's fat. Those people, I mean, just they're tough. They're tough. Like that whole region is tough because they survived that, and then right after
The Nazis,
occupation
yeah.
of Nazis,
Yeah.
yeah, of Germans. How much do you lay that at communism as an ideology versus Stalin the man?
I think Lenin was building concentration camps, while he was around, and slave labor. I don't. I think it's clearly both. There's certain variants of communism that were far like Khrushchev, and Gorbachev. The reason the Soviet Union fell apart, and this is kind of, I'm going to spoil the end of the book. There's an amazing book called Revolution 1989. It's like the most beautiful book I've ever read by Victor Sebastian. He's a Hungarian author. And basically, what happens in 1989, Poland has their elections, and then in 1990, they kind of let in the labor people into the government, and people start crossing borders, in the Eastern Bloc. And you had Honecker from Eastern Germany and Ceausescu from Romania calling Gorbachev, because those are the two toughest ones by communist standards. They go, they're just escaping. We're gonna lose everything. You got to send in the tanks like you did in Hungary, like you did in Czechoslovakia in '68. And Gorbachev goes, I'm not sending the tanks. And they go, dude, if you don't send in the tanks, it's all done. And he goes, nope, I'm not that kind of guy. And they were right. I mean, Ceausescu was personally shot with his wife up against the wall. Honecker, I forgot what happened to him, but they all self-liberated. My friend, who was born in Czechoslovakia, his mom was pregnant, under communism, and she never even imagined he'd be free, and he was born under free. And they were all looking around all these countries that self-liberated, because they're like, this is a trick, right? They're trying to figure out who's like not good so that they can arrest us en masse, and they didn't. So even within communism, there are bad guys and better guys.
But we talked about anarchy, we talked about democracy. Do you see, like, there's democratic socialism conversations going on in the popular culture? Socialism is seen as like evil, or for some people great.
Sure.
What like what are your thoughts about it as in a political ideology?
Evil.
Evil. So you're on the evil side,
Yes.
fundamentally.
Yes.
What is it? What makes it evil? What's, like, structurally, if you were to try to analyze, like,
Sure. I say three ways. Morally, no person has the right to tell another person how to live their life. Um, Economically, it's not possible to make calculations under socialism. It's only the prices that are information that tells me, oh, we need to produce more of this, we need to produce less of this. Without prices being able to adjust and give information to producers and consumers, you have no way of being able to produce effectively or efficiently. And also it turns people against each other when you force people to interact, when you force them into relationships, when you force them into jobs, and you don't give them any choice. When there's a monopoly, the consequence of monopoly everyone's familiar with ostensibly under capitalism, but somehow when it's a government monopoly, all those economic principles don't work. Doesn't make any sense.
But there's force in democracy too. It's just you're saying there's a bit more force in socialism.
Yeah.
But that's interesting that you say that there's not enough information. I mean, that's ultimately, you need to have really good data
Yes.
to achieve the goals of the system. Even if there's no corruption.
Right.
You just need to have the information.
Right. Which you can't.
And capitalism provides you like really strong real-time information that and if like capitalism at its best and cleanest, which is like perfect information is available, there's no manipulation of information.